You're here at the Full Circle Music Show. This is Seth Mosley. Today in the house we've got Manafest, one of my favorite dear friends and artists, here to share with us today on taking a dream and turning it into a career. And he has done exactly that. He's got a new album out, a 4-time Juno Award nominee, author, and over 1,000 shows rocked on 4 continents. Pretty impressive. Make sure you stick around all the way to the end of the episode. Lots of good tips and tricks in here. Speaking of tips and tricks, if you're a songwriter out there and you're wanting to learn how to take your hobby and turn it into a profession, we want to give you a free copy of the top 10 tips from a Grammy-winning songwriter. Just go straight over to thefullcircleacademy.org. Again, that's thefullcircleacademy.org, and download it for free right there. And let's dive into the show. In the house today with Chris Greenwood, a.k.a. Manafest.
What's going on, man?
Thanks for being here today in the studio.
Yes, it's good to be back.
Been hanging and rocking some new music, which is going to be hitting the airwaves really soon. Just had the chance to finish writing a tune yesterday with you.
Yeah, that was fun, man. We came together so smooth, and it's good, man. It's always challenging, and making it work for radio. You got to do what you got to do sometimes and make some tweaks, and I think the song is going to be better for it.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit of your story, because you're obviously making a living as a musician, doing your own music. What was the story of you taking it from a dream or a hobby to making a living at it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I had a really good computer job. I lived at home. I was making $70,000 a year, and so I had all this money to spend on getting tracks made and get a website up, and didn't really know what I was doing, but I was just writing. And my girlfriend, who's my wife now, we did an EP, and she did the photos for it, and she made a album cover, and we released this independent record. And I was still at my job, and all of a sudden I'm starting to play shows. My first show was just at my church. We just did it for fun, and I remember my pastor took up a little offering for us, and we got paid like $30 or $40 our first show. And so it's like, wow, I'm getting paid to rap, to sing, getting paid for this? You're just doing it because you love it, right? Isn't that why we all started originally, right? We didn't do it because it was our living, because I didn't think it could be that. But the more I did it and played shows and realized wow, this could really maybe turn into something. And I eventually went from working 5 days a week, and then my company I worked for was nice enough to give me Fridays off so I could play one more show, sneak one more show in there, or get to the show a little sooner if we had to drive. And then I ended up only working 3 days a week. And then eventually I started to take leave of absences. And then I'll never forget the day, man. After I think I got signed to a record deal with Tooth and Nail Records, I remember I was sitting in the office, and I had the choice, wondering what if I'd never quit and just take this leap of faith and pursue music. And so I sent my resignation in, and I never looked back, man.
Talk about that day, because that's really interesting to me. I can sort of picture that moment in my mind, but talk about the day that you quit your quote-unquote real job to go full-time in music, because that was probably a pretty scary thing, I imagine, at the time, right?
It was really scary, and I remember I talked to my wife about it, and she was really supportive, and we kind of looked at the numbers, and I talked to my lawyer, and was just and I talked to my manager, and honestly, I had just signed with this manager, and I didn't really know anything about the music industry. I was really ignorant about all the income streams and didn't really know how it was going to work. I just thought, I'm signed, I'm going to release a record, I'm going to be a rock star, the money's going to come in, and I just quit. Honestly, it was scary. I went into $30,000 plus in debt immediately, touring and just charging everything to my credit card, and didn't have proper tours booked, just didn't know exactly what was going on. And then it forced me to learn the music business and actually how an artist can make a living. And a lot of that was tied to touring at the time, and that was really the saving grace. And I remember actually I had to go back to my computer job a couple of times just to pay the bills. And there was actually one point where I was just about to go out on tour, and I was buying onto the tour, and I got offered my job back, but this time I would be the manager, $100,000 plus a year. But yet I decided just to go on tour again. And I was treated terribly on this tour, actually. I was opening up. I had a 15-minute slot, and they let me perform one song in between the bands. And I would be performing while the bands were setting up. And I was just like, why am I here? And I just wanted to give up so bad. I was like, why am I doing this? I could be back at my job. And then the coolest thing happened, like I think maybe 4 or 5 months later, and that's when we kind of blew up in Japan and just sold thousands and thousands and thousands of albums. And, it breathed life into my career, worldwide, and just did some really cool things. And it allowed me to keep doing what I'm doing today. And that's kind of the Cole's notes of it or whatnot. But, artists listening, don't give up. You just don't know unless you keep pushing out, and you don't know unless you put a record out there, you put a song out there. And that's the magical thing about the music industry. And I'm sharing it now, and I've gone through it, but you got to understand, like, that seemed like I could never have. It's like a dream come true. And I even look at your journeys taking you, Seth, and it's just so cool when looking back now of both of our journeys. Yeah.
When we met, I was, for those of the listeners who don't know out there, I used to tour and have a band and had long hair and skinny jeans. And
Yeah.
I think when we met, I had a rat tail.
Yeah.
And somehow I met my wife in that season, and she fell for it. I don't know what she saw back then, but a lot's changed, I mean, since then I pulled off the road and went full time into production and songwriting. And talk a little more, because that's really fascinating. You turned down $100,000 a year opportunity to go and pay money to play a song in between two other bands. I think that speaks largely to the effect of paying your dues. I mean, do you think there's a big part of that people need to be kind of prepared for?
Yeah, it's a part of paying dues, and honestly a little bit of stupidity in some ways, because I do think buying onto tours is actually a really good spend of money. If it's the right tour, to know that you're going to be in front of fans. If it's the right tour and there's people showing up, then that's a lot less riskier than spending money at radio or a publicist or anywhere else. You get to be in front of fans, and you find out if your music connects and works or not, because people will come to the merchandise table or they won't.
Talk a little bit about the mechanics of that. A lot of artists may have never even heard of that concept of buying onto a tour. What is that?
The whole idea of it is you take a huge band that has maybe, spent hundreds, if not millions of dollars on their career, or the label has, and you just don't necessarily give that away for free. They paid their dues, and as a new band, you don't just get a hall pass, a free pass, just to get in front of those fans. Someone's worked really, really hard for that, and unless there's a relationship and it's a friend thing, and that's how a lot of times it is too, it's just you take that band on tour with you because you're a fan of their music, but there's also the business side of it, and that's where you're buying onto that opening slot, because there's a lot of expenses for bands going on tour and paying for lights and tour management and tour buses and all that stuff. And so, it helps to offset the cost of the other band. But as a new artist, I'd say it's one of the best ways to kind of quantum leap your career and really get you out on the road. And I'm glad we did it. I did it again with other tours, and it was awesome. It was a great way to build our career.
So how does an artist go buy onto a tour, put gas in their van, pay for their production or whatever they need to do? How do they make a living at that?
Well, depending on the situation with the band members, maybe they're working when they're home and we're all working the jobs and they save up and they go do it, or they're using their credit cards or the label's paying for it, and hopefully that they break even or actually make something selling merch. There's tours where we bought on and we just made so much back on merch. It was awesome. I came from Canada originally, so we had some grants that helped pay for that as well too and offset the costs. And you just got to be creative and really cut your expenses and try and be smart about it.
Yeah, you really have to think like a business person even more than a musician, it seems like, when you're first starting out.
You really do. You really got to watch the numbers, and that's one thing. If I could go back, it's just you can't just assume it's going to work out or just assume. You have to plan and actually budget and say, okay, where's this money really going to come? What's actually going to happen? And whenever I'm budgeting now, or I think money's coming in from royalties or something like that, I always try and budget lower just in case, and not explode it, even if I'm seeing the sound scans that are good and, radio and whatnot. I always try and think not think smaller, but plan that it might not be what I think it is, just to be conservative, I guess is the best way to say it.
So you've paid your dues, you've had some successes, sold thousands of records, toured all over the world. Where are you at this point in your career?
We've released, I think, 9 albums now, and we had worked with labels in different countries, and this is the first time we started to go independent worldwide, just kind of take it in-house. We've had a lot of experience releasing it on our own everywhere except America, and America was kind of like the big deal, and it's been awesome. We crowdfunded our record. It's our 3rd crowdfunding, and it's amazing to have the fans come and support, which is just so rad when you have a fan base and whatnot. And there comes a time where, you might not really need a label anymore. And it's, some artists kind of look at the label as the end, but really it's the beginning, and it's a long-term relationship. But we decided to go indie. It's been really awesome. I'm continuing to write a lot more music. I'm still touring, but not touring as much because I have a daughter now. I want to be home a lot more with my family, and we used to do 150, 200 days a year, and I'm at a place where I just want to be home a little bit more, but just kind of focus with what's really cool too is the era we live in. Now people can listen to your music, you can market to them from your bedroom, from your studio, where before we had to go on tour or get on MTV or something like that for people to hear your music. So there's way more opportunities than ever for new artists to get their music out there, and for me, I'm utilizing those as much as I can with YouTube and everything like that.
On the side, what I've been really impressed with you lately is not only are you out there making a living at your own music, but you're at the place in your career now where you can afford to sow into other up-and-coming artists, and you're kind of creating a little bit of a thing for that, right?
Yeah, man, I've just been so blessed to have really good mentors in my life and people that have really helped me out. And so now I've created a few courses on Udemy that I'm trying to give back and kind of teach artists everything that I've learned and kind of jumpstart their careers and say, hey, avoid this or set this up. Make sure you have that, and kind of taking them under my wing and just investing in the next generation of artists. I think that's really important, and because it's kind of the wild, wild west out there, and you don't know, and you could sign the wrong deal, whether it's with a label or management or whatever, and just slow down, guys. It doesn't happen overnight, and so it's just kind of trying to help them, and just like, because the Bible says it pretty clearly, we perish for lack of knowledge, and for signing the wrong thing and not knowing what we've signed, and just taking care of our business, because like you said earlier, it is a business as much as we just want to create art, and I wish sometimes that's all it was, just swirling in creativity every day, but unfortunately we do got to take care of the bills and all that stuff.
If I'm a new artist that approaches you at a show, comes up to you, says, hey, my band is called the Rolling Tunas, how do we get a record deal?
Oh man, couple things.
First of all, change your band name.
Yeah, change your band name first of all. But
I just made that one up.
I'm gonna steal that. RollingTunas.com. I'm taking it. It starts with the songs. I don't think you can start anywhere unless you have the songs. Having really, really great songs. But then it's not even just that. You have to have a fan base before you even have the deal. And that's where I say to artists, man, I'm like, build it as much as you can. If you build a fan base, you'll have the labels calling you down. You'll have the booking agents and the managers calling, because it all comes down to a fan base. If you have fans that are buying tickets to your shows and buying your albums, you've got everything you need. And then the label can just exploit that even more and really take it to the next level and get the machine behind it and everything like that. And I also say build it as much as you can so you have something to negotiate with. That's then you have something to work with. When I first signed, I didn't have anything to negotiate with, so I would just sign everything. And that's not the best place to be in for an artist, and so that's why maybe doing it on your own a little bit more and investing it in yourself will put you in a much better position, and you'll learn more too, and you'll appreciate the people that are working for you too.
Yeah, because you've been there and not just taking a jetpack to your final destination. Here's the other question. How does a band know if they should have a record deal or just stay independent?
Man, that really comes to what your end goal is. I think that there's that movie Artifact, was it? If you're looking for the whole global biggest success possible, radio top 40, you need a label that has those relationships in every single one of those countries, because then all of them got the moving parts. But if you're independent, there's just some things you can't accomplish on that global scale. That doesn't mean you can't tour globally. I've toured over 20 different countries, and we still get, offers to tour all over the place. But there's just certain things and relationships that the majors have that you just can't access as an indie artist. But it doesn't mean you can't have a really successful, making great money. Like there's an artist, I think it's Tech9, who is just absolutely massive independent artist and just crushing it, and has this huge empire making millions and millions a year, and he's totally independent. And so it can be done, and it's a new world out there, and it's just changing so rapidly. So I personally think an artist should be independent for a really long time so they can understand the business and know what they're getting into first.
Sure. One of the things that I've been really impressed by watching your career and getting to know you is the attitude of just not being afraid to try stuff and see what sticks. Kind of to go to our motto that we always use around Full Circle Music is dare to suck.
Yeah, I love that up there.
Nothing's a bad idea.
Yeah, and it's scary. Like when we did our first crowdfunding campaign, it's public. You're putting yourself out there, but you don't know if you don't try. I really want to try Patreon or this thing fancy you're talking about. And as artists, it's just like, man, you're really putting yourself out there to dare to suck or dare to fail in front of everybody, right? And that's just a part of it. But I feel like he said when it comes to like writing or studio, like, isn't it those that just go for it? That's where you hit the magic and you hit the stuff and just don't care.
Yeah. Talk about your experience with crowdfunding, because you've had some success at that.
Yeah, we did 3 crowdfunding campaigns. The first one was a book, and that was awesome. And then we did 2 more, which were both albums. We used Pledge Music. I met the president, Benji Rogers, when I was in France at Meet-Em. And Meet-Em is a music conference where a lot of the movers and shakers go to get deals done. It's a really big music biz conference, and I learned so much and built a lot of relationships, and I cut a lot of international deals there, like doing distribution with like South Africa or Germany, or we did a deal in India where our record came out in India. And but I heard Benji Rogers speak, and just his passion for wanting to help artists with his company called Pledge Music, which is very music focused. Where Kickstarter, you have a lot of other projects. And so we decided to go with Pledge Music, and it was just a really great experience. It was a ton of work. I had no idea. I thought, I saw other bands do it, and they just launched it and just got funded in like a week or a few days. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And we started it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so much work to really promote it and talk to your fans. But it was amazing because it built this really close relationship with my fans. And now when we do another one, fans are like asking, when's the next record coming? I want to be a part of the pre-order, because we did tons of behind the scenes footage and really connected with them. But it's definitely a lot of work with shipping out all the products. I'm definitely going to delegate a lot more of that out next time. But I say every artist should do a crowdfunding campaign, because one of the coolest things is the marketing starts like 6 or 7 months before the album comes out, and you got all this buzz. It's like you got a little launch team. You've got just so much momentum and talk about the record, as opposed to maybe 3 months or 4 months or whatever. Like, you just get a lot more time and buzz leading up to the record and momentum than you would just doing a regular release with a 2-week pre-order or something like that on iTunes.
So you interact a lot with your fans, and you know who they are, they know who you are. How big of a part of your strategy is social media nowadays?
My main social medias are Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. I always say to artists, just choose one and let that be your main one.
No Twitter?
Twitter's on there. I use it, but it's just not my main thing. What I like about YouTube is it actually pays you. So I think, focusing on a platform that you can connect with, and it is a social media platform, and a lot of people forget that you can really comment and respond to your fans underneath your videos. Facebook, though, is going to start paying artists for streaming, which I'm really excited with. But I love Facebook and YouTube because of the targeting, and you can really put your music and your art and your brand right in front of a very targeted audience. Like, we get compared to Linkin Park a lot, so I could focus my music videos in front of them if I want, and do different ads and do different things to market my music videos or my lyric videos or whatnot, or just my songs, and get them in front of a similar audience. Like, there's never been such powerful targeting with like social media and connecting with fans and responding to them and doing live chats and all that cool stuff.
Sure. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you in the studio. We've talked about taking your hobby and turning it into a profession. And you've been very successful at doing that, and I think it's going to be inspiring for a lot of other artists out there to hear your story as well.
Cool, man. I'm honored to be here, and it's been an awesome journey, man.
This was Manafest. Check them out at Manafest, manafest.net. And check out smartmusicbusiness.com. Lots of awesome info if you're a new artist wanting to get into the business. Check it out. This is Seth Mosley, and you've been listening to the Full Circle Music Show. Make sure to head over to iTunes, leave us a good rating and review. Don't forget to download the top 10 tips from a Grammy-winning songwriter for free. TheFullCircleMusic.org. Again, that's FullCircleMusic.org. Produced by Full Circle Music with editing help from Jericho Scroggins. We'll see you back next week.